19 minutes before the hour now. More on President Trump calling for a congressional investigation into his claim that, former President Obama ordered officials to tap phones at Trump Tower during the election. President Trump has offered no evidence to back up that claim, and some lawmakers from both parties say they haven't seen any either. Let's turn to the Oklahoma Republican Senator James Lankford. He's a member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Sir, nice to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you again, Shep.
This is the sort of information that members of intelligence committees would, by matter of course, have word on. Do you have word on it?
No, I won't talk about what we have word on, what we don't, but I would tell you we're thoroughly researching all of this and walking through the entire investigation that's happened with Russia and the campaign and all that goes along with it. So we will most definitely walk through this, and we'll most definitely uncover whatever is out there on it to be able to make sure that we get it clear.
On Twitter, President Trump accused President Obama of a crime. Is there evidence of it?
Not that we've seen evidence of that, but the White House, I'm sure, will be able to document to us what they have seen and what they're aware of. We'll walk through this in the normal course of our investigation as well.
The White House has not elaborated, should it?
Sure, they should. The White House should make clear what they're actually putting out there in place, both why they would put that out in the public arena, and then also to be able to put that out to us so we can work through the classified documents with this. Because anything like that, there would have to be a tremendous amount of overreach happening in our own government. Our own government, it is against the law to be able to wiretap a private American citizen and to be able to listen in without a warrant. You're not going to get a warrant to be able to do anything that was described there. So we're trying to be able to figure out what happened. If something happened, that's obviously a serious legal issue. And so, yes, absolutely, the White House should cooperate with us in our own investigation to be able to get that. And so we can walk through the details as well.
So, Senator Lankford, you're calling for the White House to release the information that backs up this claim.
Yeah, at least to us in a classified setting, that should be a given, that we would have access to all that information that they have, so we can walk through the investigation to be able to clear this up one way or the other.
Did the president handle this matter in the appropriate way?
The president handled this matter in the way the president likes to handle the matter. He likes to speak directly to the American people. He's done it by Twitter for a very long time on it. He handles it uniquely his own. Now, the questions come to his own staff and to the people around him. What does he mean? Where's the backup to that? That's the natural question.
Sure.
When you lay an accusation out there, everyone wants to know what's the facts behind it. That's a reasonable next question, but we'll see how he handles it. But he handles things uniquely his own way.
He certainly does. It appears the information or the suggestion came from an alt-right website and a conspiracy theorist. The President of the United States, any President of the United States, has the option of calling the head of the FBI, the CIA, the National Intelligence Director to ask questions like this. Would that have been a more appropriate way to handle this?
That would be a good first step. That would be the step that we would take, certainly from the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, to be able to walk through and to be able to get all the facts and the information, to be able to have that out in front of us, to be able to walk through it.
You believe there's a possibility that this happened? And I ask, Senator, because if this did happen, if what President Trump says is true, then Barack Obama committed a crime, or there was a FISA court order that showed probable cause that somebody in Trump Tower colluded with, for instance, the Russians on money for the campaign, as has been the suggestion. It's one or the other, right? Right.
It would have to be, because a FISA court has to go through this. The President of the United States, post-Watergate, cannot just call for a wiretap and to be able to do that. This has to go through an extensive process. It goes through a court system, just like any other warrant. If there's a criminal investigation, a police department can't go just put a wiretap on a phone. They have to go to a court, show probable cause. They have to be able to prove their case, and then the court allows them to do that. The FISA court is also just like that. These are not bureaucrats on the FISA court. These are judges from around the country that volunteer that season of time to be able to serve in the FISA court, then step back into their normal court responsibilities. And so this is a very strong, with heavy oversight process, because it's exceptionally important that the American people trust what happens in a FISA court, because it is a secret court dealing with intelligence information.
General Michael Hayden had a thought on the origins of this today. Listen.
The President of the United States put his own reputation, the reputation of his predecessor, and the reputation of his nation at risk to get at least a draw out of the next 24 hours news.
To get even coverage on the next 24 hours of news, what think?
Yeah, that I couldn't begin to guess, to speculate the motives on it. It could be very well that the president was getting information and he was just going to be able to push back on it. I don't know, but we'll find out in the days ahead. Most certainly the truth, as you know, always comes out.
On the Russia matter, writ large, Senator, over time, certainly people of all administrations have had contact with Russians and Russian officials and the Russian ambassador and all the rest. We have not in history seen this amount of lying and obfuscating about contacts. and changing of stories after things became public. How concerned are you about the larger Russian interference with the election part and the contacts of people within Team Trump with Russian officials?
Yeah, so we're doing a very thorough, very bipartisan investigation on the Intelligence Committee, both in the Senate and in the House. We will release a bipartisan report to be able to say these are all the facts that we found. This is really in several parts, though, and people are starting to combine them all together. There's no question the Russians were trying to interfere in our elections. There's no question with that. Where there are questions is, were they cooperating with anyone here in the United States, with the Trump campaign, any other individuals? Most of those stories have been unnamed sources out there. I've never seen so many unnamed sources. We're trying to actually get to the actual information and the background on this to be able to settle. No question, again, the Russians were trying to interfere in our election. There is still a big question on what the role that anyone within the Trump campaign had in that, and we want to try to get to the bottom of it and to settle it once and for all. And we need to settle it in a way that is clearly bipartisan so the American people can trust the information, because as President Obama said in December, there's a lot of it that's classified. They were walking through sources and methods.
Sure.
We can't release all of it, so we have to have a good report that people can trust and know that there really is a bipartisan agreement for those of us who have seen all the source documents.
Well, with your point that the people need to know this information in mind, we know there are transcripts of some of the communications between the Russians and members of Team Obama. Should those be made public?
No, we should not try to release out some of this. We should try to
Team
keep
Trump.
Well, I understood what you meant, actually. But yeah, that we should not try to have any kind of release out on that unless it's heavily redacted. The issue that we're always going to face is in intelligence operation, and we're talking about foreign intelligence, not trying to spy on an American citizen. That's against the law. But anytime there's an outreach to try to examine what's happening in other places, and it's no grand secret that we're trying to listen to the Russians just like they're trying to listen to us. The great reminder of that was the Russian spy ship traveling down our coast just a couple of weeks ago. So there's no surprise that we're trying to listen in on their conversations. The issue is anytime we can protect sources and methods of how we do it, that prevents the Russians from being able to figure out how we're doing it. That's a reasonable, good thing to do. So any information that comes out has to protect our future operations, not just deal with the past.
You mentioned it needs to be appropriately non-political. Would you advocate then, given that, for a special prosecutor in this matter?
Oh, I would not. The reason would be is because the Select Committee on Intelligence in the Senate is a very bipartisan committee that works together. We all have top secret clearance. All of our staff already has top secret clearance. If you spin up a special prosecutor, you're going to spend 6 to 8 months just getting staff together, getting clearance, getting organized, getting all the relationships. That's a 2-year process to do what we started 3 months ago. So it'd be much faster for us to be able to get to the facts with the people who already know how to get to the documents and have clearance for those documents. Again, it's a nonpartisan committee that we work with because we're all passionate about national security. Let us get this report out there and let the American people see it and then evaluate from there.
Thank you. Senator Lankford, today North Korea is in the news. More missile testing. We're led to believe more may be coming. Our North Korea expert has said that the North Korean leadership is unstable, which is a known. And the former president told the current president, according to the reporting of the Wall Street Journal, that he would have to at some point make a decision on whether to use military force with North Korea. Your level of concern there as a member of the Intelligence Committee and how high a priority this should be?
Yeah, it should be an enormous priority when we deal with North Korea. They're a very unstable regime. Obviously, it's a tenuous time in South Korea, as many of your followers will know very well. South Korea is in the process of dealing with an impeachment of the sitting president. They've got a transition of the leadership in South Korea that's happening one way or the other. So it's tenuous in South Korea and their transition of leadership. It's tenuous in our relationship. The North Koreans are trying to figure out how committed we still are to our strong ally, South Korea, and then they're very aggressive. The North Koreans always try to blame their aggressive actions on our military operations in the region. That's a false argument. We are only doing military operations in the region because of how aggressive and unstable they are. We know we have to be prepared and to be able to be a deterrent. So it's very good that we be able to stay there and to be able to stay engaged in that agreement long term.
Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, live from the Rotunda. Sir, I greatly appreciate your time and thank you.
Glad to be able to do it. Thanks.